I'd like to call this regular City Council meeting of August 10, 2015 to order. We would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call shows that all present except for the chief, who has a stand-in, and Lieutenant Sovic. Thank you. Approval of the minutes for July 27.
I move the minutes.
I'll support. We all support.
We have a double support.
You guys said two.
Okay,
They
triple.
were clearly supported.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Approval of the bills.
There was an awful lot of them.
Yeah.
My goodness. I'll move the bills.
Second.
Further discussion, longtime, old-time Councilman Reynolds Sweet used to always use this line. Well, they're already here and the checks have been sent out, we might as well back them up. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the agenda. Any additions or deletions to our city manager?
Two. The first one, item 3, under new business. I would like to have that item removed from the agenda. Dennis Smith is not available due to illness to be here this evening to answer any questions the council may have, so I would like to have that removed until he can be here at a future council meeting. The second item, I would like to add number 9, under discussion items, to discuss logistics for recording the public meeting with DTE on August 19th.
I'll move the agenda as proposed.
I'll support.
Further discussion?
I would like to ask for I wish that the existing rate schedule or fee schedule had been in our packet for this. So if you can have that provided for next meeting, that'd be
You
great.
beat me to it, Glenn, I agree. It'd be nice to compare. Okay, as amended, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment. At this time, anybody wishes to speak on any item that's not listed on the agenda? Well, it's on the, okay.
Good evening, Carl Richards, 390 Lennox. One short item I just wanted to mention for council's favor. In case anybody wondered how the railroad crossing job came out on Lafayette Street. I've been up there several times, and I talked to the crew while they were working up there and alerted them to certain things. And for bicyclers such as myself, the ramps are critical, and they're beautiful. They're smooth. You can go over them with your bikes easily. I met with some other bikers and we've talked it over. Anyway, just thought you might be interested in knowing how that job came out. Anyway, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Brian Dunn, 1087 Stable Lane. Just have some prepared remarks I'll read, and then a couple comments at the end. Mayor Wallace and council members, on Saturday afternoon, August 8th, a representative of Detroit Edison, DTE, began hanging red flags from the evergreen trees on the houses behind Trotter's Point on Stable Lane along 11 Mile Road. We had not and still have not received any formal notification from DTE about any tree trimming work being proposed in the area. The inquisitive person that I am, I approached this individual and wanted to find out some more information. I sure am glad that I asked, as during my conversation, as I learned that the DTE's Ground to Sky program, also known as a vegetation management program, was be expanding to Trotters Point and the northern portions of the city in the coming weeks. Per the explanation of the DTE representative, there will be an extensive tree removal, keyword removal, in our area. And I've spoken with other Trotters Point residents who are here with me tonight, and we have the same concerns, similar to that as Oak Creek residents that were communicated to the City Council in prior meeting. The residents of Stable Lane don't just depend on the targeted trees for nice view or botanical beauty. They're actually a safety buffer. My backyard or back door is less than 100 feet from 11 Mile. There's no curb, there's no nothing. So when my children are playing in the backyard and families are enjoying their yards, if there are no trees, there is no safety barrier between us and 45-mile-an-hour traffic. DTE is coming in and unilaterally recommending the removal, not just trimming of these trees, that is arbitrary. And there's no specific requirement by the Michigan Public Safety Commission to the new window, the new envelope that they want to have between the wires, the distance between the wires and, I'm forgetting the term, not egress, the
Clearance?
clearance, the variance between the wires. Thank you. I know there's an informational session scheduled on the 19th. I know we'll be talking about that later. But I'm asking the City Council to be proactive in regards to this issue. Specifically, I'd like the Council to consider passing a resolution restricting the activities of the Ground to Sky program. Similar communities in Metro Detroit have already done so, specifically Birmingham and Rochester. A resolution of this type could require DTE to give the city and impacted residents 30 days notice, or whatever a reasonable time would be. Replace or provide financial reimbursement for any vegetation that's removed that was in compliance when originally installed according to the codes and variances at the time. Also engage in professional arborists from an independent society when deciding if it's appropriate to remove vegetation. Also securing appropriate approvals and authorization for any work done on private property, as that has been an issue in Birmingham, specifically sparking a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. I do want to thank you in advance. I know this is not just a Trotters Point issue. It's a South Lyon issue, and it's a Metro Detroit issue. I'm asking the council to be proactive in this case, not to be reactive when the trees are suddenly disappearing. So with that, I would humbly ask that you consider a resolution, whether tonight or tomorrow, and be more than happy to discuss in the future if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay. Now we're going to move on to old business, second reading of the amendment to the ordinance, Chapter 14, Animals, to allow for and provide regulations on keeping of female chickens or hens.
You should have in your packet a red line version, or doesn't actually show as red line because we didn't make color copies, but a edited version of the ordinance that was brought to you at the last council meeting. A summary of the proposed revisions include permitting the keeping of female chickens in single-family detached with a maximum of 4 chickens, no roosters, prohibiting slaughter, co-op and fence enclosures required with a 14 square foot minimum for each chicken, 4 square feet per chicken in coop, and 10 square feet per chicken in the enclosure. That it must comply with the fence ordinance, must be fully enclosed, must be properly designed to avoid vermin and nuisance conditions, must be located in the rear yard, must be 35 feet from any dwelling on neighboring property, including decks and patios, and must be 15 feet from any property line. You must sketch a plan of the coop and enclosure and the materials required. A permit would be required and a fee would be paid. The permit would be valid for a period of 1 year. Permits could be renewed on an annual basis, but the permit would not be transferable. All droppings must be removed. Feed would be kept in a manner to avoid vermin and nuisance conditions. You must comply with other applicable ordinances, noises, odors, etc. If a permit is issued, then notice would be mailed to the adjacent property owners, letting them know that a permit had been issued for a specific location, letting them know that there would be chickens in the neighborhood. Failure to comply with the ordinance and conditions would be a civil infraction and would be handled can be a basis for a revocation of the permit. Private restrictions such as HOAs should take precedence over the ordinance. Variance procedures via the ZBA were taken out there because they were not recommended by the city attorney. And that's how the ordinance reads as is, based on the feedback that the city attorney received from the council at the last meeting.
Tim, so the biggest pitfall to anybody that doesn't follow the rules here is they lose their permit, right?
They could. So
What
it-
about fines?
Well, it would be a civil infraction. The city would have the discretion to pursue a civil infraction, issue a citation, and take them to district court, or it could start a proceeding to revoke. So that would be an internal policy. I mean, off the cuff, you may not want to go revoke a permit on the first violation. You may try to, I think the city is generally takes the position that we want to achieve compliance. And if you can achieve compliance and it's not a grievous and gross violation, then you may just achieve compliance and move forward. But that record may be something that the city takes into account at a renewal.
Tim and I had talked about this with the new BSNA software coming online. There's the ability to cache or log in. If complaints come in, they can be logged into the software and accessed from, it sounds as though they're cross-platform communication in there, so people that are in accounting might end up being able to still access it from the building department information or whatever. So, I mean, but we can generate a log in the event that someone isn't behaving completely in compliance with what the expectations are. So, we'll be able to create a history and kind of judge from that whether or not a renewal would be warranted, so.
When we first started looking at this, I don't believe that there's going to even be that many people that take advantage of it to do it, because, like I said, I grew up with chickens, and chickens aren't easy to raise to get the eggs from. But the enclosure requirements and the setbacks from the property dwelling has made it virtually impossible for anybody in the community to have them, even if they want them. So, I mean, I just really think this is a moot point at this point, because you can't really even have them with the setbacks that were there. So why don't you just say no instead of giving the people what they want and them not being able to fit it in their yard? These are pretty huge setbacks.
We asked the council at the last meeting for specific distances, and you did not give us distances.
I did give a distance. When I was asked that question, I did give a distance.
Tim, do you remember what that distance was?
It sure as hell wasn't 35 feet. And so, I think that needs to be, at least give the people
Well,
a
that's
chance.
from a building, though.
That's from a patio, a deck, a building, anything. Who even has that in their yard? A lot of the houses don't even have it. I know it cuts all the homeowner associations out right off the bat, but then it leaves the smaller neighborhoods, and they don't have that kind of yardage. So it's kind of, I think and I'm for the chickens. I've said that I was for it. But I think if we're gonna put an ordinance in, we should at least put an ordinance in that has some viability in the community if somebody wants to do it. This is just a joke.
Well, so what are you suggesting, 10 feet from a property line, 10 feet from your neighbor's house?
I said that I was fine with that.
Well, I'm not.
Okay, but your 35 is a little, so why, is there no number between 10 and 35 that suits
Well,
Mr.
15
Kramer?
is the setback.
Well, is there any number, if you're set at 10,
I would negotiate between 35, absolutely I would. But I think
I'm totally
35
against
is
this in
high.
the first place, so
But I would be more than willing to negotiate the 10, which is what I said at the last council meeting. I said I was fine with the way it was. And I would be fine to negotiate on the 10, but I think 35 is just, it's just laughing at the citizens in this community, and I think that's not appropriate.
So all the people that have come up to me and said they don't want chickens, you're saying that's laughing at them?
No, I'm saying make an ordinance that everybody can get along and live with the chickens also.
Right.
But this is, I'll take chickens next to my house. Somebody can put that, my neighbor wants to put chickens in, they can put chickens in. Because all the other things are in order to see that the chickens are complied with and they're no odor and
Right.
this, that, and the other. So all those things are in place. And like I said, I don't think people are gonna be lining up at the door to get chickens the day this ordinance goes in. I mean, if a few people do it, a few people do it. But at least give a few people a chance if they want to. This is just saying, this is just laughing at them. It's not, I don't think, I mean, whether we vote on it yes or vote on it no, it just really doesn't matter.
Okay, Harvey?
Well, to, the point that you're making is that it's a city, and cities are made for people to live in, not for farm animals. And so the setbacks, what may be unreasonable to you, they're reasonable to those of us who aren't interested in living next to a barnyard. It's that simple. That's funny, Joe?
Yes, I don't think it's as
It's
simple
not my,
as,
not your turn.
you were asking me, I was responding, but.
A yes would, that's enough. Anyway, we're in a city. There's a reason why there's only a small handful of cities that allow chickens, because they're a pain in the neck. And let's be a city. Let's get back to where we belong. We don't need chickens. The fact that only a few people will do that is not reason enough to change an ordinance for the rest of the city. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Tim?
if I could just address the setback issue. The notion here was that you would have so there'd be a setback, I think by under zoning, you have certain side and rear setbacks. We've got, so we have 15 feet on each lot, or at least the lot with the application for chickens. So you're 15 feet from on the inside of your own yard, you've got 15 to the edge. And then you have 35 feet from the nearest dwelling unit other than your own. So the idea that was in play here is that the envelope for your location of your chicken coop would be in the center, in the back of your yard, far enough away from other residential structures, 35 feet. And I don't know, I didn't do an analysis of any of the zoning districts to determine what the typical lot width or depth is, but that's generally the idea that I was working on, is that you generally are looking for an envelope that puts the chicken coop with a certain radius of distance from the nearest dwelling structure.
Unless your house backs up to somebody else's house and those people happen to have a deck.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have
Well,
a
but
chicken
I
coop
think
right there.
the answer there is maybe that's not the appropriate location for a chicken coop. But that's, the numbers were, I didn't do any analysis to come up with those numbers. They were trying to address, I thought, was what I viewed as a concern that the setbacks weren't large enough, and council can address whether those are the appropriate setbacks, or if you need more information to make that decision.
Excuse me, let us finish our discussion first, please. Tim and I had talked about the idea of the 35-foot setback from the deck and patio aspect of it, and as long as, if a chicken scenario went in place prior to somebody submitting for a deck, they couldn't end up using it as a protective mechanism or, to preclude you from further having chickens. So I felt comfortable about that. I think the thing that I'm most disturbed about this whole thing is that it's the fear, the unknown fear, rather than any real information that's driving people's resistance to this whole thing, and I just don't understand that. So.
I agree with you on
What's
that.
next, goats?
See, I mean, that's,
No, I'm serious, Glenn. I live in a city because I want to live in a
I
city.
know, you were, probably the gay thing was, that same kind of argument, so,
Excuse me?
yeah.
What?
It's just
You're
as
comparing
absurd.
chickens with,
I think
gay
that your
lesbians?
argument is just as absurd,
I
yeah.
think he was comparing narrow-mindedness with
Glenn,
narrow-mindedness.
Yeah.
I did not build a house and spend a ton of money to build my house in this city to have a chicken coop where I am downwind from that chicken coop, sitting on my deck. It's simple as that. I want to enjoy my yard. I want to enjoy spending time in my yard. I don't want to enjoy seeing a chicken coop and having whatever come downhill or downwind. That's what it's about. I mean, if I want a chicken coop.
No, I get
I'll
your
live in a-
argument. I think it's ridiculous, though.
Well, I think your argument's ridiculous.
So, I mean, if someone's making sauerkraut and it gets out the window, then you're going to be calling Lloyd?
Yeah, 24/7 making sauerkraut is a big difference.
I've
from
talked to a whole
24/7.
bunch of people that raise chickens, that
Fine.
are
Then go
informed
live
about the
somewhere where they
chickens.
allow chickens.
The idea of the smell is really a misnomer. I mean, if you were to leave that unattended,
You can deal
it can
with all the
become a
phone
problem. But if,
All right.
if people that,
You can deal
let me
with
just
phone
finish
calls.
my comment, would you? If people end up tending to it as the ordinance suggests,
Sure.
it's not going to end up being an issue.
Yeah, and you make a big assumption that everyone's going to tend to it the way they're supposed to.
No,
tend
I'm
to
not
it.
making an assumption. We have the language in here to be able to address it.
Exactly. We have ordinance in here saying you
It's a
have to
civil
take care of it.
infraction if they don't follow the rules.
Civil infraction, who's going to prosecute it? What resources are we going to use to prosecute it? We're going to have the police chief and the police officers coming over to take a noise complaint or a odor complaint. We're going to have the city attorney's office prosecute it. What, yeah, you're right, but we're going to be using all these resources to deal with chickens.
We're going to
You
not
don't
use
have
these
people.
resources because it's not going to be
You're
the
making
problem.
some big assumptions.
No, actually, I'm thinking you're making these giant assumptions.
That's fine, Glenn. Well, you can answer the phone calls at the police department.
I'm surprised you haven't Googled that chickens don't make noise yet after last meeting.
They don't stink either.
Not if they're taken care of.
Exactly. It's unbelievable.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Joe.
well, I feel obligated to, without getting upset, explain my situation here, my personal opinion. First of all, as it says right here, private restrictions shall take precedence over ordinance. So if you're in a subdivision, correct me if I'm wrong, but your homeowners association will not apply, will apply, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
If you
So-
have a private restriction, that will trump the ordinance.
I live in Oak Creek Village, homeowners association. I'm not going to be affected. Mike, you live in,
But
where
that's
do you
not the
live? Hidden
point.
Creek,
That's not
won't
the
be
point, Joe.
affected. All the subdivision, 90, I'd say 3/4 of the houses won't be affected. We have a list here of 20 different bullet points of restrictions. We have a process where if you don't meet these restrictions, you will not get renewal. And as Glenn said, it's going to apply to a handful of people. I don't understand why this has to be such an emotional topic. I mean, to me, and it's not just about the city argument. You look at where cities are going, and it's more of it's the new way of urban farming. It's not, I don't buy the argument cities can't have urban farming, because there's a lot of cities that are doing it, so.
But Joe, you made an interesting point. You're right. I'm protected. My subdivision's protected. I'm talking about the 10% that are not.
Right, and of those 10%, I would be surprised if there's 5 or 6 people more than that have these chicken coops. And the people who are going to have them are going to be passionate about them, and I imagine I trust our residents enough to be responsible, just like I trust all of our residents.
So we're going to give the 90% of the city, assuming that they're protected by homeowners associations, a pass on this. And then the 10% that don't have homeowners associations are the ones that are going to have to deal with this issue.
Even more
You're
of why
fine
it's a
with that
smaller
because
issue.
you're
than-
fine with that because you live in a subdivision that has a homeowners association. You don't have to worry about it.
No.
Well, I
that's
don't,
not
and I'm
exactly-
fine with it.
I don't, and I'm fine with it.
Okay.
There's 3 out of the 7 people, 4 out of the 7 people.
I have a feeling the
Yeah, some
attrition
people
rate
live
of
without it.
people that get in, if anyone engages in this, half of them will be out of it in no time,
It is, it's hard.
so.
It's very hard. It's time consuming.
And if it's your property, I mean, if you're being responsible, I'm not one to tell somebody you can't do you should do what you want to do your property. I mean, it's their house. It's
Right.
their land.
Okay with the homeowners association telling you what you can do and what you cannot do.
Well,
with
I
your property.
choose.
Well, that's out of their hands. I mean, they already have stated that they won't allow that, so.
I think I've made my point clear.
But the fear of that shouldn't be
It's
the
not
thing
a
that
fear,
drives
Glenn.
it.
Glenn, it
It
is
is
not
the
a
fear.
fear.
It's
It
a
is not a
simple
fear, it's a
fear.
reality.
No, it isn't. It's a
It's
simple
reality.
fear.
It's not a fear.
It is.
Okay, Glenn. Jeez, oh, pizza. Yeah, keep living with your fear argument.
Wow.
We don't have to lay an egg. Jeez.
Unbelievable.
I might agree.
If anybody wants to speak on it, you gotta come to the microphone.
Yeah.
State your name and address, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ron Grenda. I reside at 724 Hidden Creek Drive. I am against this ordinance of allowing farming in South Lyon because it's a city. And I'm listening to a lot of the arguments. I don't have the experience that I don't want to mess up your name,
Oh, you
Aaron.
just call me Aaron.
My nephew raises chickens, and I've been out there enough to know that ammonia, when it goes past you, it hits you hard. And there are so many people that demonstrate they don't care what the rules and the regulations are. I have the distinct feeling that the tail is wagging the dog big time here. I don't know how many people want chickens, but as far as I'm concerned, they should go someplace else. The biggest problem that I have is, even though I live in a subdivision, our property values are going to go down as if these start coming up. And I read the ordinance where the coop has to keep out vermin and mice, etc. That's a joke. You are not ever going to keep out mice. You might keep out the raccoons, but you will never keep out the mice and maybe the rats. In our subdivision, we had a problem with raccoons because people were putting out salt licks. They created havoc in the subdivision. They had to go do away with them. You put out a chicken coop, whether they're successful or not, those people are going to, or those animals are going to get in there. And I'm curious, how many people really asked for this request? How many people asked to have chickens?
Just a handful. I mean, yeah.
One? We're having this discussion
one came
about
to the
one
meeting,
person or
yeah.
two people? Okay. By the ordinance, unless I misread this, sir, you could have 60 chickens, a little over 60 chickens in your yard.
No, you really misread that.
No, it's
4.
4 in there.
You have to have one chicken per every 4 square feet.
No.
That's not what.
No, with a maximum
One
of 4
chicken has to
chickens.
have 4 square feet, and up to 4 chickens can be
I
held.
misread it.
Yes,
I apologize.
that's all right.
But the ammonia thing is the big thing. I agree with Michael. If you're downwind from that ammonia, you're going inside the house, and there is no way that you're going to be able to track everybody who is in violation of this ordinance and shut them down. Thank you for
How
listening to
many
me.
chickens does your nephew have?
I'm going to guess 50.
Oh, yeah, that's an ammonia smell.
They all produce it, though.
Yeah. 4 compared to 50.
My name is Don Hotke from 1081 Stable Lane. Actually, I have the question for the attorney that in enforcing this, when it comes time for the renewal and somebody has been in non-compliance with, keeping up the coop and everything, what's the process? How long is it going to take to actually get them to remove this? What's your estimate on the cost of the legal expense to doing this? I support Mike 100%. I think this is just, I can't believe you guys are doing this, but I want to hear from you, what are the expected costs when somebody becomes non-compliant, and how long do you expect it to take to actually, evict them or do something with that?
I don't have any way to really estimate that. It would be,
Well, you must have do you not bring suits before courts or something? You have to have some idea what the legal preparation for this would be, what the court costs, how much time you spend. You've got to have a ballpark
there
estimate
would
for
be,
this.
there would be ordinance
Yeah.
enforcement.
Okay, so you've got police officers and them involved. So to actually issue these citations and get them to respond to that, come on, you've got to have some kind of idea. You're an attorney, you're representing the city, you
Well,
go
then
to court for us.
if there's
You've
a
got to
hearing-
have some kind of average that says a court case takes us 200 hours to do at, $100 an hour and stuff. You should be able to come up with
It
this.
doesn't take that much.
Okay, so what does it take?
You'd have to issue an ordinance violation,
Okay.
set a hearing, If it's not resolved, you'd have a hearing. The case would be, you would have a decision likely in an afternoon.
Okay, and how much preparation? How much time would the
Talking to
estimate on how
witnesses.
much the police would take to respond to all this stuff?
You would have to talk to the ordinance officer, prepare that person, or the police officer that issued the citation, and probably through the court proceeding, there may be an examination of the person that has the permit. It's not gonna drain resources. It wouldn't be significantly different from any other civil infraction that the city pursues.
Okay, and so what's the general cost for that?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
I guess I'm surprised at that. Thank you.
Joe?
Excuse my ignorance, but my question is also for the city attorney. Do we have an ordinance about restricting how many numbers of dogs you can have?
Yes.
And can you enlighten me, how many would that be?
Believe, without looking off the top of my head, I believe there's a maximum of 3 dogs per household
Okay, so we can have 3 dogs.
and 3
Four-
cats. According to
three
Chris,
cats.
it's
You
3
could have
dogs and 3
six-
cats.
6 total animals in your house, but some people are against having 4 chickens. I'm just trying to put it in perspective, okay? The numbers. Thank you.
Tim, how many of our civil infractions actually go to court? Is there percentages? Is that like 1%, 2%?
Unfortunately, I don't handle those day to day. I could find that out.
It's not a big, it's not
No,
like,
we don't.
for
end up-
everything, like all the citations that are issued by the ordinance officer, a lot of them are just handled,
A lot of them
just
achieve
handled
compliance.
neighborly.
Yeah, I think a lot of the ordinance violations, you're achieving compliance. There are not very many civil infractions issued for ordinance violations.
Yeah, that, the objective is just compliance, not
Right,
punishment, so,
Right.
yeah.
okay.
Steve Kennedy, 1079 Vassar. I live next door to the person who wants to have the chickens. What amazes me, I guess, is the concern for the one person that wants to have the chickens and no concern for the 3 that surround that property that do not. Okay? So when we look at doing what's best for the city, we look at what's best for the majority of the residents. Okay? Not the one-off situation. The neighbors on both sides, neither of them want those chickens. And yet we're so focused on the individual. And as Mike has already pointed out, this applies to such a small portion of the city that we would, modify the existing ordinance to allow this, and it pertains to just the tip of the iceberg as far as the population. Why would we do that? And as far as the setback goes, I fully agree and support the fact that if you say that somebody can have the chickens, it fully belongs right in the center of their yard if they're the ones that want it, not close to the perimeter yards for those who do not want it. And I've discussed this with the neighbors. They don't want the chickens either.
You have an association on Vassar,
No, we do
don't
not.
you? Oh, you don't? Oh, I
No.
thought you did, I'm
And
sorry.
that's why we're here talking about
Okay,
this.
I apologize, I
Okay?
thought you did.
No, that's the woman that wants them. She wants the chickens in the yard. People on both sides do not want the chickens, period. Thanks for listening.
I thought Vassar was part of Hidden Creek. No?
Anybody else?
Well, I make a motion that we approve the second reading of the chicken ordinance.
I'll support it.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
No.
Can we get a roll?
Kibble,
Yes.
Dubkowski,
Yes.
Rizzi,
Yes.
Wallace,
No.
Waddell,
No.
Kramer,
No.
Dixon.
No.
Thank you.
Move on to new business, commission resignations and appointments. We did have a resignation from Maggie Kurtzwell, as she has chosen to run for council, and that's kind of in the rules, you got to do that, so she had to resign. I don't know, do we have to accept that resignation?
Generally, you accept the resignations, yes.
It's not the beginning.
Get that in your packet?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody want to accept her resignation?
I move that we accept Simply Maggie's resignation, and thank her for her service on the planning commission. I wish her good luck in her run.
I'll support.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and we do have somebody willing to step forward to the appointment to replace Maggie, and that is Michelle Berry, and Michelle is in the house. If you'd like to step up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Michelle Berry. I've lived in South Lyon since 1976, pretty much since I was a small child, and looking forward to doing something to help my community.
And I know some of your business adventures would fit and be helpful as well, and we're just pleased that you stepped forward. It's very difficult to get anybody to step forward to a non-paying job. And I know I appreciate you, when I got word that you had sent yours in.
Especially one as important as this. I mean, there are very key decisions being made there, so that's very helpful.
Somebody want to move to accept Michelle?
I will.
I'll move to accept Michelle.
Or to second my motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Joe seconds it. All in favor, say aye.
Further discussion?
Okay, further discussion, dear, sorry.
I just want to say that Michelle's been my neighbor for a long time. She moved away from me, but she was my neighbor for a long time. I saw Michelle study very hard to advance her career, and she does put her mind into the books. And so I'm sure that she'll be reading all that stuff that comes in the packet and asking questions and all that good stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there, and welcome to the Planning Commission.
I did tell her not to be alarmed when a police car pulls up in your driveway. This is just delivered in a packet.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Joe?
Yeah, and I also wanted to add, I think all of our boards and commissions are very important, but especially the Planning Commission, because you're deciding future developments and basically shaping the city. So we like to see high expectations and standards, and it's good to have somebody who has a lot of experience and organizational skills. And welcome aboard. Thank you.
And I think the community knowledge will be very helpful as well, too. So, now, any further? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, you need to see the city clerk as far as to be sworn in and so forth. Maybe at the end of the meeting, if you're going to hang for a little bit, you can set that up, because I know you have a work schedule too, so, okay.
I'm sure I can work around.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, purchase of a 2 Life Pack 1,000 automated external defibrillators. Lieutenant?
Mayor, Council, thank you. Normally, the police department, when we're going to purchase an item or a contract or service, we would put it out for bid. In this situation, we didn't for 2 reasons. We currently carry the Life Pack 500 models, which is manufactured by Physio Control. They're out of warranty. Most of them are up to 10 years old. And if a repair should become necessary, they're not even going to service them any longer. We're looking into purchasing 2 of the Life Pack 1000 AEDs, which is also manufactured by Physio Control. The manufacturer is also willing to, every unit that we exchange back to them, so for example, if we give back 2 of our 500 units, they will credit us with $250 for each unit we exchange back to them, and they'll knock it off the price of the 2 Life Pack, the 1000s. So that was the first issue. The second was compatibility. After doing some research with Chief Kennedy, the South Lyon Fire Department currently carries the Life Pack 1000, and the HVA currently also carries the Life Pack 1000. So rendering service to each other in assistance, I think, would be a seamless transaction. So for those 2 reasons, we went with the Life Pack 1000 by Physio Control. This was an item that was passed or approved in our 2015-16 fiscal year budget.
Okay. I've only got one problem with this. I want all our cars to have this. I don't want just 2 of them out there.
Well, that's in the 5-year plan, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I don't want the car with the AA batteries arriving at my house when I can have D batteries.
The 500s, they will still work. One good thing about the physio control is when we turned in the 500 units, they were allowing us to keep the batteries for the 500s. So, don't worry, we'll get there. Be all right.
It'll probably work out.
It's in our plan, it's in our plan over the next 2 years to purchase 2 more each for the next 2 years.
I heard natural eggs were are healthy. So I started eating some natural eggs too.
Well, I enjoyed this whole thing, Chris. I think whoever put it together, I think it was you, did a great job of demonstrating all the rationale that was used in it, and it's thoroughly researched. That's a great job.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion then to approve the purchase of 2 Life Pack 1000 AEDs for $4,035.
Further discussion. Those are the packs that are they the ones donated by the Lions Club
At one point, yes.
10 years ago?
Yes.
I can't believe it's been 10 years.
We've
But I
actually-
know that they worked and saved some lives.
They have, and I think it's important to upgrade this and make sure officers are equipped with this in every car.
Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 3 was scrapped, which was the permit fee. 4, consider accepting donations to the Cultural Arts Commission of South Lyon. We had, can we accept these all as a whole, or do we gotta do each one individually?
We can accept them all as a whole, but I wanted to read them all off so that we acknowledge each of the donors. We had a donation to the Cultural Arts Commission from Joseph and Sheila Rizzi of $75, from the McHattie Center Associates of $100, from Mayfair Real Estate Group PC of $50, from Jan's Skin Spa of $50, from Briar Point Veterinary of $50, and we had an anonymous donor that donated $100.
I'll move that we accept the donations to the Cultural Arts Commission with thanks.
I'll support with thanks.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Chief Kennedy, we're going to consider the sale of surplus fire equipment.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is more of a housekeeping matter than anything. So our self-contained breathing apparatus that our firefighters use to go into smoke environments, we received a grant back in 2010, just prior to my hire, for 23 of these units. We've reduced our fleet with the approval of Engine 1 at the replacement of Engine 1 at the last council meeting. Essentially, we have more air packs than we do riding positions at this point, which it's a surplus of equipment. My OSHA requires that these be serviced and flow tested and maintained monthly, and so it's just a matter of less packs. There's legacy costs associated with it. Lyon Township and Brighton both use this exact same style. I'd been in contact with both of their chiefs, and they had expressed interest in potentially buying these from us. So I guess I'd rather see it stay local as opposed to just go on the state site and go away. There's a couple of national vendors. I did some price comparisons with them. They wouldn't quote me anything firm, but in talk with them over the phone, the $500 a piece mark with the 2 vendors I spoke to was about where they were at. One of the issues we dealt with is every 5 years, the NFPA changes the code on them, and there's a really big change. And so these are actually 2 cycles out of date now. So any department wanting new equipment, this wouldn't be what they would get. So just like permission to sell 4 of these at $500 apiece.
Are the bottles separate from the apparatus entirely?
They are, but we would be selling the bottles with these. We've got a.
But I mean, the bottles have longer life than the rest of the gear, or no?
They're about the same.
Is that right? Okay.
I believe the bottles we can hydrostatically test 4 times every 5 years. So it's about a 20-year life on the bottles, and really the SCBA, when you hit the 20-year mark, you really should be looking at other options at that point too, so.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'll make the motion then that we approve the sale of the 4 Viking SCBA's for a minimum price of $500.
I'll support.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Discussion item, Dorothy Street parking lot, that just suddenly popped up. What was,
Actually, you missed it. You
I missed one?
You missed
Oh,
Pontiac
oh, no, the
Trail.
other one, Pontiac Trail. Discussion options for Pontiac Trail. I'm really disappointed to see the pricing that's being laid out in front of us now for doing something like that. We could have done it for a third of the cost just last year. And I'm just thinking now it's beyond the realm of possibilities. And I know people are screaming to do something, get something done with that road, because I live right there by that road. You can hear every creak and crash of a truck going by and hitting those crevices, and there are some potholes out there, and it's a shame that again, that we didn't do something at the time. So I had asked to put this on the agenda, but now to see it 3 times the cost of a year ago, something's amiss somewhere, I don't know, but
Well, I think there's a misnomer. What you saw last year was just to do the area that the water main project was. These
Right.
3 costs are city limit to city limit, which may be why there's such a...
well, that's a huge difference.
Yes,
I was
that is.
talking railroad track to Browns.
These costs signify city limit to city limit. Because and curb
right.
to curb and city limit to city limit, which is
Decel
why there's
lanes, the
such
whole
a,
package, right, yeah.
which is why there's such a significant difference between what was brought forward to you last year and what you see in front of you. There are 3 options, and I will turn it over to Jonathan Booth from HRC. He can explain what the 3 options are. But before we talk about that, we also have the roadway asset management that they've brought forward, and this may be something that we want to consider having a special work session on, just to talk about roadways, because we had talked in the budget work session about a potential dedicated street millage as something to look at in 2016.
The, last year too, wasn't it just one direction? It was just like, wasn't the
Right,
north?
it was just in the one lane going north.
That's
Well,
why
we talked about the other lane, but
Yeah,
it
we
was
did.
so
And
it
extraordinarily
wasn't-
expensive, we,
And not even the parking lane. I think it was just the,
Just the
right,
third
Drive.
lane.
that's correct.
Right.
Well, you know where the holes are.
Yeah, that asset management thing is gonna be very important. I was just kind of curious, right out of the gates, you have a couple of comments in here about slurry and seal and just chip and seal, whether or not they would be met openly with RCOC. I'm surprised to hear that. Why, what would their misgiving be? See, it's successfully used a lot of places.
I'm not sure that's successfully used in an application like this on a main downtown.
No, I don't know that this is
Thoroughfare.
suited well for it, but it sounded as though RCOC would just, out of hand, not allow that to go on any of their roads, and that just seemed strange.
Yeah, and I guess the concern that I have, that when we put this estimate together, the road commission comment, was we have not had a chance to discuss that with them yet of can we chip seal Pontiac Trail from city limit to city limit? Different monster if we want to
Well,
go out
that's-
to
Right.
Dixboro, pick your street outside of town.
No, this got completely, I was just talking where we tore it up.
But I also think that this Pontiac Trail estimate from city limit to city limit was also done for a funding purpose, right? For looking at, because those are fiscal year, check that calendar year 2018 projected costs. So that has something to do with last year costs versus 2018 costs. There's some inflation in there as well, so.
With the price of oil coming down like it is,
For today.
well, no, it's down.
Right, price of contractors is up, so everyone's busy right now. I also wanted to know that, I mean, that whole stretch, I'm hoping the asset management isn't going to look at that as one comprehensive project, that the objective to me is to prioritize things that you get the best return on your investment as well as the biggest address to the most people and all that kind of stuff, rather than, well, this road's turn, rather than driven by conditions and benefits.
I'd have to look quickly at your asset management plan, but since Pontiac Trail is a federal aid road, I would be curious if that is even included in your asset management plan. I believe your asset management plan focuses on your local
streets.
Yeah,
your
local, right,
non-federal
yeah,
aid
that's true,
streets.
right.
So,
Right.
two different monsters,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So,
okay.
but same problem, two different monsters.
Yeah, even 9 Mile though, I mean, I'm hoping if there's half of 9 Mile was okay and the other half wasn't, that we wouldn't be doing it all just because it was time, you know.
That'll be all part of that asset management discussion and prioritization and those kind of things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's too much money.
Oh, yeah, when we built in the ballpark for a Little League field, requested.
If I may, Ted, I still think we did right by putting concrete in those patches than asphalt, because they have kept rock solid, they've kept smooth. You may hear the seams, but you're not getting the cupping and the panning out that you would have if you would have thrown asphalt in those. And for the long term, and this is gonna be long term, from the time it was done to the time it's gonna be redone, is somewhere between 3 and 5 years minimum, it was still the right choice.
Yeah, you looked around the edges and seen how they're cracking out like earthquakes.
But you know what it would look like if we put coal patch in asphalt patch in that? It would have been equally as bad.
And it's not
Or
the new
worse.
concrete that's chipping, it's the old concrete that's chipping.
Not concrete, asphalt.
Asphalt.
No, what the patches are now, it's not the patch that's chipping, he said around the edges, that's not what's chipping.
Yeah, it's the
It's
asphalt
the
perimeter,
asphalt
yeah, right,
perimeter that's
yeah.
chipping.
But, I mean, the whole objective, though, you were talking about trying to get the downtown done, and I mean, so that certainly is a great deal more doable than this comprehensive project, so, and since it's not going to be in the asset management discussion, then, you know, that's something that maybe we need to get that pricing. There was also a comment in here about the storm lines, though, not being addressed in this. That is such an expensive portion of this whole thing. I don't know how we look at it without some kind of a revolving fund set up like the DWRF had been. I just don't see how we're going to be able to,
You talking the county drains?
yeah. We're going to be able to handle something like that without a great deal of benefit from a break like the revolving fund.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
why just, you know.
That's like $4 million worth of project, you know? Yeah.
Because, I mean, if we're gonna fix it, let's try to fix it all.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, you're just trying to create, you know, a
Right.
short-term solution to a long-term problem.
But I think it would be
Well, it's
appropriate.
been this way for 40 years or more.
I know, but it doesn't get any cheaper. We don't have anywhere near, I mean,
Me,
we have kind
Should
of,
we pass something
descending-
pushing the county to say, hey, it's time to take care of this
I'm
corner
all
of the
for that.
county?
Actually.
you can see where they're really putting a lot of work up out there.
Mr. Mayor, to address that, as we've had the flooding issues that we've had this year and
Today,
today, and as we're looking at our roadway asset management, Bob Martin and I actually have a meeting scheduled next week with the county, he's now called the Water Resources Commissioner. He's coming to South Lyon, and we are meeting here, and we're going to discuss the stormwater drainage along Pontiac Trail, some of the flooding issues that we've had, and trying to get on
this is
their...
not new, I'm sorry.
But-
We've
but
had
no,
this
we're
discussion in
getting
these
on the-
conference rooms year after year. We've
Right,
been
but
doing
we're
this.
getting on their schedule so that we can figure out a way to get this solution fixed and stop the flooding and get that stormwater and see what they can do to help us find the money to fix their drainage issues, because it is a county drainage.
Historically, though, the problem has been that they end up assigning a special assessment district, and, you know, it doesn't make us have the money then, just because they call it a different name, so.
But we are trying to address it.
Well, at any rate, I mean, I think that it would be appropriate if we could try to get you to budget what the downtown repaving might end up being.
Limits from Railroad to Brown.
Railroad
is that-
track down to McCaddy Street.
Yeah,
We can certainly revise the cost estimate to reflect that.
yeah.
That was my original request, but
Do you want both sides of the street or just the northbound
Might
lanes?
as well see what both sides is. It's gonna look a little silly.
So
It's all
curb to
nice
curb,
on one
both
side.
sides. Okay.
Just quilt it.
Yeah.
It's looking more than silly right now. So I guess we got a general, I kind of agree, at least have a
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Booth.
I have to say, though, that those trucks are still going to be noisy, Ted. So trucks don't go downtown without you hearing them, so.
That isn't, no, go ahead.
They go by my house. I hear
I
every single
know,
one
and
of
you're
them.
smooth as glass over there, aren't you? Okay, now,
I don't know
I
what that
don't know
means,
what that
but
means either. I mean, they go by my house.
discussion item of Dorothy Street parking lot. This just suddenly popped up. Where'd this come from?
Councilman Rizzi brought this up at the last council meeting and had asked that this be put on the agenda. As we all know, the city parking lot on Dorothy Street is in a significant state of disrepair. As you drive in, there's basically a hole, which would be classified as not really a sinkhole, but a very large pothole that could eat a small car. The parking lot, if we're going to maintain it as a city parking lot, needs to have significant work done to it. So I asked HRC to put together a cost estimate for building it up to street level and resurfacing it, as people, not only Councilman Rizzi, but other members of the public had asked what we could do to fix that parking lot and make it more usable, because there is a parking issue for vehicles at McCatty Park, for the softball games, the baseball games, the playgrounds, and for different uses there.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm just going to mention that in 1983, I brought this same parking lot up. You can see what shape it's in. It was in that shape back then. I don't know if you want to build it up that high to street level, because I look at it as possibilities in the wintertime that can be made into an ice rink or a hockey area or something for the usable means that way. You bring it up to high above the road, I don't think you can keep the water level better.
Actually, Bob and I discussed.
Is there a drain in that? There's one, right?
There is a drain in that. Bob and I actually discussed the possibility of using the city grass area that's also park area across the street from this parking lot, getting the equipment and the liner that you see for skating rinks and creating a winter ice skating rink in that area across from the Dorothy parking lot to create
is there a hydrant over there?
Cross street.
There is? No, well, I mean by the plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Nothing holds it in
to where we could, to where we could create a winter ice skating rink on a grass surface and not damage the asphalt surface by turning a parking lot into a skating rink.
Well, that, or
That was my concern.
we used to do it on the volleyball court. You think that's better than that?
We decided it was better than that because the sand tends to drain away the water when it starts to get warmer temperatures.
Plus the volleyball posts, I don't think they can get them out anymore. They're pretty well rusted into place, aren't they?
What? I'm sorry.
I don't think we can get the volleyball net posts out anymore. I know that they played heck trying to get them out a couple of years ago and finally gave up on it.
Well-
Danger to the skaters.
Plotting ideas and doing them are two different things, and I'd like to see something, we asked for it last year, and it would have been perfect winter to have an ice rink. We really need to be pushing more for something like that.
Well, we can talk to the Parks and Rec Commission and see if this is something that they're interested in, and if it is, we can explore what the costs are and bring that back to the council.
Okay, we'll come back to the subject of the Dorothy Street parking lot itself. I'm sorry, was there a cost in it? I must have missed that one.
There is a cost, it's $295,000.
How ironic. Almost twice what it cost to do around the fire department.
Well, it's a significantly larger parking lot than around the fire department. There's more
I
asphalt.
don't know it's that much bigger.
There's more asphalt surface. You're not going around buildings.
Yeah, but it's one back and forth with the roller. And that
Yeah,
guy
but you're
had to
having,
be very
you're
good
having
getting
to
around
fill
those
in
buildings.
that hole and bring it up to grade, whereas you didn't have to fill in a significant depression.
What was it in 1983, Ted? Or 19
62.
You know, you had made mention about it going back to gravel.
I don't know if that is within our zoning codes, though, for city parking lots. We would not want to violate our city zoning ordinances by having a gravel parking lot as a city parking lot when we require other parking lots to be hard surfaced.
As you know, we don't have the obligation to follow the same rules that businesses do, so, I mean, it should at least be something to consider, so.
That's why I put it in the note that that is an option. We could take it out and make it into a gravel parking lot. That would be considerably cheaper.
Mr. Mayor?
Joe?
So one of the reasons why I wanted this added to the agenda was because I look at how many events we have, especially with the baseball games, and I see the children getting out of the cars, car doors opening, children walking across the street, and a lot of times, unfortunately, there's speeders or fast traffic, and it's more than just, it's a safety, more than just cosmetic, it's also a safety issue, and I think if a lot of people don't even know there's a parking lot back there, or if they know, they don't want to park there. So that's why I think that if we did something, it would alleviate some of the parking issues we have over at McCaddy. Another thing was, I'm not familiar, but I've seen that it floods, and I know there's one drain in there. So at the very least, if we're not willing to spend, which I think this is an enormous cost, 200 and some thousand, maybe we could at least take a look at the drainage and see if there's something that we could do to make sure, help the flooding so it is usable when it doesn't rain. Thank you.
Yes, Mike?
I totally agree that we need to do something with this parking lot. My concern is, I would like to see this road asset management program to see where we stand on the roads, the local roads that we need to start looking at repairing. I mean, I understand it needs to be done, but again, I looked at the costs. A lot of money for a parking lot when we have a number of roads that we have to start looking at fixing in subdivisions.
$7.4 million.
Right. So, I mean, it'd be nice to kind of maybe, I saw your suggestion of doing a working group or something like that to see, look, where do we want to put our resources right now? I'm really having a hard time with the road millage.
Oh, yeah.
But I would like to see, you know, and I agree, we have to do something with that parking lot, because I agree, I used to go there all the time, and I never parked in that lot, because it was almost like you were afraid you were not gonna be able to get out of that lot. So, but I just wanna see where the money needs to go on a listing of what projects we need to really focus on roadways, and then go from there.
We've done a PASER study with HRC.
Right,
You
we
refer to
remember
it as
that.
asset management, you
Right.
could call it that, but actually what it is a PASER study where every road of the local road has been driven in the entire city, and a priority has been allotted to each one of those roads. It's there to be analyzed, and at that point, this council or the city can move forward and decide where they want to put their resources.
I think that's what we need to focus on.
Okay, we'll go back to the parking lot itself, and I think it seems to be a consensus. We can't do much with it right now.
I think it would be a huge step backwards to put gravel in that parking lot. It's gravel now.
A couple truckloads will fix it.
I don't think we want to go backwards. I think we want to try to find a way to move forward all the time. And an asphalt parking lot there is going to be good for, you said in what year, Ted? 83?
83.
That's 80.
We didn't do it then.
17, 20,
We didn't do
32
it.
years.
It was
Okay.
bad shape then.
So,
It originally went in 1960s when we were having the carnival across the street where Hampton Square now is. We used to have gala days there, and that's when they put that parking lot in. I'm talking around 1964.
so you can imagine if you asphalted it, you're good for another 57 years. Or whatever.
Well, it's not like it's been good for a long time, so, I mean,
Obviously not been good for 30 years.
Minus 20.
yeah.
Usable. Well, Mr. Mayor, could we look at the drainage, because I know that's at the very least.
Can that be jetted or something?
See what that would cost us, just to see if we
Is that
can
just
use it.
draining over to Yerke's drain now?
I'll level with you. There's a catch basin right in the middle of that parking lot. We'll see which one. I wouldn't be surprised it's completely collapsed because we haven't done much in there in quite a while. We've stored snow in it the last couple of winters.
Oh, yeah, on the parking lot itself, yeah.
Exactly.
I think the bigger issue isn't so much the drainage as when you drive in, there's a very large pothole. And that somehow has to be filled in, and, because that's where the flooding occurs. It creates a great big water hole at the entrance of the parking lot.
Right.
So if we don't do something to fill that in, whether it be gravel or asphalt millings or something like that.
Well, and
we're
that
not
would
going to
certainly be
solve-
affordable. I mean, we could fill a patch, so,
Yeah, I'd be
just
for that.
so it's not a rumble when you drive into the driveway of it, so.
I mean, that's the most significant challenge there. And that's why people don't park there, is because, like I said, you're gonna lose a small car in it.
Okay. So
Well,
we,
if I could, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say, when we do the taser study, would we be able to add, let's say, patching that hole as part of our analysis? when
It'd
we
be
do the
my
workshop?
suggestion that we do one large work session with HRC to cover all the roads, to discuss the Pacer study, and to discuss the parking lot.
I would like that added.
was that far off, Carl? About when that parking lot went in?
You're a little off,
Oh, yeah?
yeah, but not greatly. Carl, 690 Lennox, 399. Okay. I agree with the comments here. You're absolutely right. Bob mentioned something. I want to bring up one important fact. I know, there's facts I know that the rest of you don't know. I live next to that parking lot
That's why I asked you.
29 years, okay? Okay, I won't go back to the 1870s when it was mine, all right? However, city bought the property in 1957. 3/4 of where that parking lot sits today was the eastern half of the old trailer park that was established during
World War II.
Okay. There were 12 or 13 manholes in that parking lot, in that trailer park. I used to have fun playing around them, okay? Approximately 35 feet from the double gate that goes to the diesel engines for the, okay, you've got a 9-foot manhole, which was filled in. And how do I know it's 9 foot? When I'm 11 years old, I measured those kinds of things, okay? And that's what it was. It's a 9-foot manhole. It was filled in. It had an 8-inch drain going out of it. And it went straight to Yerkes. And I don't believe, by the angle that I recall, that the water treatment plant, which wasn't there, of course, would be interfering with where that drain went, and it went straight to Yerkes. And, of course, all this was built by the government. When they confiscated the land years ago. But, no, there's a 9-foot manhole right there, 35 feet from the gate in the middle of that parking lot. But it was filled in and could be reopened, and it would probably be useful as a drain, which might facilitate, making it cheaper. I'm always looking to save money, okay, to fix up that parking lot. I can recall we used to have the Oakland County swimming pool tank there, and a lot of people used to bring their kids over and jump in the water there. But the city bought the property in 1957, and,
Come on, let's move on.
that's what
to
was there.
this.
Okay? And hopefully it can be of service to you in your decision-making process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on. Discussion item 390 Lafayette. For those that aren't quite sure where that address is, that is located at the northwest corner of McCaddy and Lake Street. On another corner is the Brown's Root Beer, and another corner is of course, the bank and the McCaddy Center, and then the other corner, Phil Weipert's office. That long building there The city purchased it through a tax sale, and we felt it was viable to get it at that kind of a price and do something about it, because it's been an eyesore for literally decades and decades. I personally feel that we should be putting out for bids to get this torn down immediately. I do not feel it is salvageable. It is on uncertain grounds. When it was originally built in 1948, within 3 to 4 years, the bowling alley that it was built to be became unusable. The foundation had sunk so much, there was no way to throw a bowling ball down the lanes. And if you look at it now, you can see it's almost 2 feet lower on one end than the other end. I was there today as the rain poured down and took pictures as the water literally is lapping through the doors into that building. That flooding was, of course, the same flooding that Browns deals with. I think and you look in there, it's a total disaster. The back wall is ready to cave in. The side wall on the inside between the other building there, if you look in there, is ready. It's like this. It's not up and down. It's like this. I think it's a dangerous building, and we know it's an eyesore. Again, it's costs that we can recoup if we were to, as I say, put out to have this torn down, hauled away. And a temporary thing for there after that would be to certainly try to leave in the parking lot area that's there for now. And I think that'd be a nice little pocket park for now until somebody comes along with a plan that would want to buy that. I think it should be made available to be purchased, especially if we're talking about rezoning that area. If Carmen's here, you're talking about extending the B2 down to there? Is that what, you want to come up here?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm Carmen Aventini, the planning consultant for the city. And yeah, what's shown in the master plan is that would be the edge of downtown, and that would actually become part of what we will call the central business district. And that's how it's included in the draft zoning ordinance that I'm currently reviewing right now with Tim. And we're going through the legal aspects of the zoning ordinance, but that's what's anticipated there, that would be a part of downtown and would extend, I forgot exactly how far it goes down to over near the railroad tracks, somewhere in that area, the other edge of downtown on the north end. So that's included in the plans for downtown and the zoning.
And of course, it can be like a 2-story building, have a loft type situation or anything like that up there, and just more. And of course, they don't have to have the parking because with the B2 rating, right?
Correct.
I mean, we have parking in the area, but they wouldn't have to have their own parking lot per se.
Yeah, the central business district would allow, which most central business districts do, they allow you to have parking within so many hundred feet, usually it's 500 or 300 feet of that particular location. They are allowed to utilize on-street parking and any public parking lots that are located in that district. It's pretty typical for a downtown. And yes, the goal is to create development sites and to get buildings that are multi-story, more like what you see at the corner of 10 Mile and Pontiac Trail, the multi-story type buildings. Mm-hmm. And that actually would be a really good location. And we're looking, once again, we look into the future. Right now you say, well, it's a pretty small parcel, but in the future when you combine it with some other parcels, you'll find that you have some valuable development sites. And the city-owned properties like that, we've seen in other communities, actually become very good incentives for putting that deal together. Because you hold a piece of the pie, and maybe you've got some other properties nearby that you can combine it with to come up with a new development, whether it be, I've seen cases where existing property owners for adjacent buildings have become developers and redevelop properties, or I've seen other developers come in and actually buy up the properties and put in that type of a development. But the key is, and sometimes it takes time, okay, this doesn't always happen overnight, but I think the real key is that you've got a development parcel that you have as potentially an incentive for future redevelopment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, I was on the line of thinking that we could make it a pocket park for now, and I think what makes it nice about that is just 2 or 3 picnic tables there. People can walk over from Brown's and eat there, Wendy's. You've got the parking lot there. They get the overflow from Active Faith when everybody shows up there on their shopping day, and it just, and I want you to visualize this, folks. We hated to see the greenery come down, and it just had to happen, and it did, but what an amazing open view we have through there now. Oh, look at that lovely store that is sitting there. And I think the same thing would happen there. There's a building right on the other side of that. Also, they would be there, and the car wash behind there. You can't, just because we lose a building, we don't lose our town.
Yeah.
It would really open it up and show more what we have there, I think.
Yeah, and the key really is not locking into whatever you put there, whether it's a park with benches or any other temporary use like that, is to keep it temporary. And
Yes,
don't get
and
so
then
locked into it that you
With
can't
our goal would
redevelop.
be to pick what we think would best fit there, and we can sell it to them for what we have into it.
Yep, exactly.
And that makes it viable for them to do a good project.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Joe?
Yeah, last city.
Sorry, Harvey, yeah.
Last city council meeting, I actually made that suggestion during my council comments that I feel that should be torn down as soon as possible. Certainly, we want a viable business to come in eventually, but I don't think it's fair to leave it up there for any longer than we have to. I mean, it's just, you look at that building and it's blight. I'm not afraid to call it what it is. It's terrible. You look in there, and I swear there's critters in there. And you look in there, and there's also carpet torn up, and I think we owe it, like I said, to the residents to get it down as soon as possible. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'd be willing to make the motion.
Well, we can't do it
I'm gonna
tonight.
wait,
It's a
but-
discussion.
tonight.
Yeah, but that's all I had to say in the matter. Thank you.
But we can ask for, if we want to have some bids put out, we can do that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Harvey?
Thank you. When it was suggested at our last meeting that we have it demolished, I think I saw heads nodding across the board here in favor of that. So why don't we instruct our manager to get some demolition bids and put it on our next agenda so that we can vote on it? I suspect we'll have a unanimous vote on demolishing that building. There's no rehabilitation of it, there's no use of it. Let's get it out of our system. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, we recoup all the costs by whoever buys it. And we can't charge more for it either, because we got it on a tax sale, so we can't make money off it. But we want to get our money back out of it. Aaron?
Thank you. I'm a little more concerned about the zoning that's being changed around in there. So would the central business district start at that building and go down the whole entire street to the railroad track on both sides?
Yes, as I don't have the map in front of me from the master plan, but generally that's
So you're gonna take
what it would include.
places like the auto zone, at the auto place, I'm sorry, I don't know exactly, there's so many auto places, I'm not sure of each one's name, but the auto place that's like next to Brown's.
Moe's.
That, what is that one?
I think it's
Moe's,
Moe's.
yeah.
Bose, okay, so that would become part of the central district
Yes.
business. So everybody in there would have, they would not need their parking that they put parking on their sites.
Right.
Because they weren't in the central business district.
Well, they can retain it.
So they could
don't
retain
have
that,
to.
or they don't have to.
Yeah.
So they
Right,
would have an
exactly.
opportunity to build out their envelope if they wanted to.
Right. Because we'll be carrying the bag for parking.
But
Okay,
it would
so
have,
you're gonna
but it would have to be a permitted use too if they're going to change that.
But it's going to be.
still opens up
It's going to
opportunities.
open up that envelope.
Yes,
Okay.
for
The
redevelopment.
unintended consequences, that's great.
Well, if I could, keep in mind, this is all going to come before you. Okay, the zoning ordinance, all of this is coming before you. So
just curious of
any
what you were
any
planning.
reservations you might have, you'll have the opportunity to go through in detail, make changes in the ordinance if you think that's necessary.
I'm just, at this point, I'm just want information for pros and cons.
Yeah.
I'm not making any
Right.
decision at this point.
Yeah, and if I could add one of in a central business district, what we look for is a more pedestrian-oriented environment. So the automotive-related uses are, we want in the other commercial districts. So a use like we just mentioned, the Mo's property, would probably become a legal non-conforming. So you couldn't switch over to, like you said, the bigger building envelope and less parking unless you had a conforming use.
Nothing will be added onto that building.
It wasn't, the suggestion wasn't necessarily that you would enhance your own business. These guys have parking lots that provide parking for their existing business. They could turn around and put another building for some other entity, business entity, in that parking lot space, and then we're carrying the bag for providing parking for two of them then. Your letter suggests, I'd asked a long time ago to try to get this information, but at any rate, you provided it that the 30-foot setback in the front, the 20-foot setback in the back, and the 10-foot on either side. If that building came down under the existing zoning class, all those setbacks would end up having to be met. I guess my concern is that's a very difficult block. That gas station is going nowhere for a very long time. It's, they make more money off of selling stuff than they do the gas. And it's one of those kind of entrenched things. I don't know if Tim's familiar with the Northville gas station that had been downtown, but it took them, I think it was north of $1 million to get them to relocate from the downtown. The place that's called Garden View is a restaurant now.
The garage. It's the
Oh, is that
garage.
what it's called now? Yeah, okay.
It used to
Yeah.
be Garden Views, then it went to the garage.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry. I guess my concern is if there's an opportunity with a remod to take everything but one wall down and use that as to grandfather the existing building in a remodel that could be a viable business. And my concern is that as it stands right now, luckily Heinenen's building is really, they've dressed it up very nice. They've got a wonderful setup there. I can envision somewhere along the line them looking at trying to package their place with that corner and perhaps even at some point the gas station for a more comprehensive redevelopment. But it's not going to be for a long time. So in the event that there was something of a more modest nature that could take place where they can retain their existing on-site parking and have a viable entity build there, even if the remodel ended up being smaller than what the existing building is, but it still could conform to someone's use. You'd end up having something that was viable and generating revenue and tax revenue in addition to that. The difficult part when you go to the CBD is let's see, well, the two sides at least are the two accessible sides of that location for deliveries and things like that are on private property. So you're tying up McHattie that has all the truck traffic for the tube mill, or Pontiac Trail where you're breaching a curb and sidewalk. To say nothing of the fact if you're loft in the second floor of this zero lot line development, you've got people living upstairs and they're going to walk 500 feet, which both City Hall and the volunteer or the veterans parking lot are 500 feet away from that location. That just seems unrealistic. So it would have to be a substantially more comprehensive package to make anything work there.
Well, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about that.
I'm not done talking though, thanks.
Okay.
I was just kind of curious, and also the whole idea of parking down there, which, I mean, this screams the idea of the parking scenario. Are you familiar with?
Here.
Are you familiar with
You have something to
Northville's?
share.
Your hair just turned off, now you can.
Yes.
Oh, your hot air just turned off.
I don't know if you're familiar with Northville's parking formula. Their central business district, either you have, it's a formulaic thing for particular types of activities, they assign so much, I've got the whole thing here that I plan on emailing everybody so that they can kind of research this a little bit. But it's a formulaic thing. If you have, say, a retail place, it's for every 250 square feet of retail space, you have to provide one parking space. And different types of activities have a different formula. And if you can't reach that by what the on-street parking and your own private parking, you pay some fee into a pool, a fund that, that will support either the existing parking spaces, or once they accrue enough need, then they can build new parking spaces. I'd love us to end up moving in a direction like that so that we can actually bring to fruition the needs that are going to be necessary once that goes to a CBD. But for this site, I would love for us to take a step back. I know that everyone's seen that as an eyesore for a long time. I would just, once the building comes down, any opportunity to try to see if there's something that's viable in a remodel goes away, because then you no longer can grandfather that property. So I'd just like everyone to take a minute, a deep breath, and think about that.
Thank you. Mike?
I've lived in this city since 1998. I haven't lived here my entire life. We have an opportunity to start making some significant changes to our downtown. One of them being ripping down a building that we've been calling an eyesore for I don't know how many years. The possibility of that store, leaving that store up, that building up, and waiting for somebody to come in to remodel it, when's that gonna happen? I don't wanna wait another 20 years.
Oh, no, that would be ridiculous, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
but we
we're
could put
dealing-
bids out to see if someone was interested before we tear it down.
Let's start some change in the city. I mean, we have an opportunity to create a downtown area that, quite frankly, I would like to spend my Saturdays at. You know, I would like to make it more pedestrian friendly. We have an opportunity to change our ordinances and our zoning ordinances for downtown. Let's start. Let's start by getting rid of this building and seeing what we could do. Even putting grass down is going to improve the downtown area. I mean, let's start. I don't want to be here another 20 years and say, God, we haven't done anything. I want to see some change, and this is our opportunity to start.
Well,
how
we've
I see
already
it.
changed. I mean, we bought the building, so.
Well, yeah, let's rip it down and start some more change.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, every time I look at that building, I just shake my head that we put money into it to fix it up in the first place. You
Well,
know?
we didn't,
We got it back.
yeah. I
But we
mean,
had
that's
to
why
do
we
it.
did it.
Right, but we had to do it.
It didn't sell
It
it.
didn't do anything.
Move any renters in there. It didn't do anything to make it.
I mean, that's a landlord thing. I mean, sort of like Lyon's buildings. I mean, it's not our fault because the landlord won't allow someone to actually hold an activity inside their buildings.
Well, the landlord wasn't doing anything at all, and that's why we had to end up fixing it up a little bit.
I get that.
All righty.
Ted?
Yes.
I'm still in the pros and cons. I mean, I'm still in the information process. We just obtained this building. And I'm still in the.
Stick your head in the window. Look around in there.
I've been in the building, Ted. I've been in the building. So I've actually been inside the building. I didn't just stick my head in the window. So I'm in the information. You know, I asked you a couple questions. I'm in the information phase of it, and I'd like to see your information that you've done some research on. And I'm with Harvey. I think we should get some demolition bids. I'm with Glenn. I think we should get some bids to see, put it out to see if somebody wants that building or if is interested in coming up with a proposal. I think that we just bought the building a couple weeks ago. I think we should. There's no reason that we shouldn't have all the information and take a look at it. I mean, I'm in an information gathering mode. I'm not in just a jump in and tear it.
Look long-term at something, right.
I mean, let's just look at it, step back, get information from Carmen, get information from Lynn, get information from Demolition, get information of what other cities have done. And I mean, I don't know why it seems so decided already. I think that.
Because we've lived with it, for me, a
I've
lifetime.
lived with it too. I mean,
I've lived with it for a lifetime.
I've lived with that building too, but I still think we owe it to the citizens to just take a breath and look at all the options.
The beauty of the situation now is that it's in our hands. When it was in private hands, we were just victims of whatever they brought to the party,
And
which
I'm
was
not-
nothing.
And I'm not saying
Now
I
we
don't
can
want it
make a
torn down.
difference.
I'm not saying I want it built up. I am 100%
No.
neutral, looking for information.
Yeah, but
And I
let's see
think-
if there's something besides just tearing it
Yeah,
down.
I
It
think
might
not
be
giving
productive.
I don't know, it's
information on all
sidebar over there.
sides is inappropriate. I would like more information. Lynn, if you can gather some of that with some of both sides of information, it would be helpful. So we can at least be educated.
What's our liability for that building now that we owe it?
Our liabilities, I would say 100%.
Right, exactly. So
If it
there's
were to
something-
fall, to collapse, if it were to damage someone else's structure, it's our liability.
It's got to come down ASAP. I mean,
Okay. So you kind of got a couple of different information. One is demolition bids we would want and not have them still out 2 weeks from now. We want to have some ideas.
Well, our next meeting is the 24th. I can get demolition bids in that time. I had looked at the possibility of doing an RFP to see if there were people that were interested in a highest best use of the building, similar to what Fenton has done with one of the buildings that they owned, as well as Lake Orion has done with one of their buildings. I got those two information on those two communities from Oakland County. I don't know if I will get any responses back to an RFP, but I can get copies of the RFPs those two communities sent out and try to get RFPs sent out. It may be that the bids come back the Friday before the council meeting and you would get them later than the rest of your packet, but
Whatever.
I will do my best to get all of that information for you by the 24th.
I would like to see all of the information before it goes back on it can go back on for discussion.
Right.
But I don't want to see it go back on to a vote until we have information complete.
No, that's what I'm saying, but get RFPs from people for remodel, renovation, whatever, demolition, but I think it's gonna take longer to get the remodel
certainly.
RFPs back, so
I
it may
agree.
be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would like to see all of it to make an education.
Well, for the record, I'm ready to vote.
I am too.
I am as well.
yeah, count me in, please.
Okay, number 9.
Okay, number 9, we have the DTE informational meeting for property owners and other interested parties. They're holding a public meeting here on August 19th at 7 o'clock. Councilman Rizzi has asked me to make it possible for that to be recorded. I've spoken to both of our agents, our students that do the recordings of our city council meetings. Neither one of them is going to be available that night, but they have said that they would train me, as I had planned to attend that meeting. The question is, do we want to use city resources to do that, or how do we want to go about recording the meeting? That way we can post it on the website so that if anybody has any questions about what DTE is saying about the tree trimming program, we have it available through them if they are unable to make the meeting.
I don't think it's going to make them any less honest with the people if it's TV'd or not. Those that have an interest will come to the meeting.
Right, but it also makes it available for people that can't attend the meeting
Yeah.
because of other conflicts.
But then again, you're saying you would be doing it. Frankly, it's not that simple.
Just turn it on with a wide shut and turn it off when we're done.
Yeah, I actually agree.
People
on
can
this.
hear.
I would
Yeah.
like to put them on.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's a
Yeah.
good use of our resource. We've got the equipment.
We can start
we've got
doing
the-
planning commission meetings and
It's a good-
ZBAs and
It's a
everything
good use
too.
of the resource. It's got a lot of public interest.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak to this since I requested? Just some background. I kind of went through this. I'm not going to be as lengthy as I did last time, but the city met with DTE in June, or at least spoke to him, Ms. Ladner. I don't know to the extent, but I know we have spoke to them in June. So the city does have some interest because we have already made contact. So this is a South Lyon problem. This is not a homeowner DTE problem. This is a South Lyon problem. I have heard from residents in Trotters Point, my subdivision, Eagle Heights, subdivision along 9 Mile, closer to Dixboro. I apologize, the name's escaping me. I know I've spoken to Bob. He said they want to come in and cut down along the rail trail. Also, maybe even leading into the downtown 10 Mile. This is a big issue for our community. And DTE, I don't know if everybody knows this, I assume you do, but DTE has come under fire in other communities, actually for lawsuits. And there was an article that I forwarded to the council from the pre-press, actually on the 7th, and I'll just read a couple lines here. In a letter to the city, DTE Energy Vice President apologized for one of the utility contractor's failure to follow the proper procedures in communicating with residents before trimming or removing trees. She indicated the contractor would not be doing future work for DTE. So they're coming in and they're cutting down trees they're not supposed to be cutting down, and they're being sued. And like I said, this is a South Lyon problem. So my original request was to actually have DTE come before a city council meeting. That was what I wanted. I wanted some backing from the city government of South Lyon to say, we have high standards and we don't want you decimating our trees. Now, I understand there's maintenance that has to be done, but let's be responsible. That was met with a little resistance, and now we're holding this forum, which, okay, I can accept that. But if we're going to be holding a forum, I want some accountability. I want it on record, what they're going to be promising to our residents. And I don't see any issue with broadcasting, and if...
can I cut just for a second? I just
Sure.
want to say, that was the old 31 years of working with TV in me speaking, that you always try to do your very best in your photography, and that, to me, was not just setting up a tripod in the back of the room or whatever. It's not very professional, it would look hokey, but if it would get the message out, I agree that it should be done that way.
So, yeah,
No,
thank you.
We're going to use the professional system in here. The meeting will be hosted in here. She's going to meet with me on Wednesday and train me how to use the system here in the auditorium. So it will be the same system we use to record the city council meetings, and then it'll be uploaded to the city website.
Doesn't any of the cable commission people know how to use the equipment in our,
Nope.
No,
none of them know how to use it?
no.
Don't you think one of them might want to come to that training?
When is the training?
I'm not sure what time she's coming in. I just arranged it right before the council meeting. But I'd be happy to have someone else also. Yeah. I had planned on attending the meeting anyhow, so I figured.
Well, it's good that you learn too, but I mean, I think somebody on our cable commission should know too.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor, one other comment I wanted to add was, originally I asked for the resolution that Mr. Dunn actually speaks of, that other communities have passed, and then we postponed it because DTE wasn't able to speak to it, to address it. I think Mr. Dunn had it perfectly correct when he said we need to be proactive. So I don't want to have to wait to hear what the responses is. I mean, I'm sure they're going to come with good intentions, but given their track record, I would actually like to have this resolution back on the agenda for the next city council meeting. And I've said this before and to the public, I'll say it again, I would support such a resolution.
When's the DT?
19.
19.
And the next
meeting would be
meeting
after
is
that.
Yep, that's fine
after
with me.
that.
But I do need to know if there is a quorum of the city council that plans to attend that, because if there is, we do have to notice it as a special meeting
On the 19th?
on the 19th, Wednesday at 7 PM.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I think it would be smart to post it.
Okay.
So, thank you. I know I've been sending a lot of emails on this topic, probably a little too many, but in my opinion, not too many. So I appreciate the attention that this is getting, and that the city is not simply saying that this is not our issue, because it certainly is our issue. Thank you.
I don't think we were saying that.
Well,
I never said
Could
that.
I make a comment on this one?
Bob?
Well, I'd spent 2 days with a gentleman from Ash Plum, a representative of DTE, and I've driven around the city with him for probably a minimum of 8 hours. This gentleman is exceptionally understanding and is a tree hugger, but yet understands what is necessary by DTE standards. He's got a really tough job too. I just want you to understand something. He's got a tough job because DTE says we want 15 feet each side of the wires and 15 feet down from the wires. So this gentleman has a very hard time also. And we've driven every inch of the South Lyon format that they're looking at right now, including coming down the bike path from Dixboro Road to McMunn Street, okay? And in front of the South Lyon Clean Water Plant, along 9 Mile west of Pontiac Trail also. And in the city-owned areas, not residential, mind you, but city, like in front of the wastewater plant and stuff like that, he is showing me what they want to do, cut, trim, what have you, and I can understand what he's trying to achieve here. It's a very touchy subject. I just want you to understand that. And I've listened to him, and I voice my opinion on behalf of the city also. But at the wastewater plant, he's showing me what needs to be dropped to protect the DTE lines on city property there, and I understand what they're trying to do, and I signed off to let them cut at the wastewater plant.
I just want to chime in one little thing. There, between DTE and our city obligations and planners, we're in conflicting interests because we'll end up having a development go through planning, and planning wants trees all over the place to doll the place up, and they're literally always on the, right at the end of the easements. So, I mean, we create our own hazard by wanting to beautify these subdivisions. Unfortunately, this comment that Joe had made from the letter that he had seen in the, or the article in the Free Press, DTE's typical position is they end up always blaming it on the subcontractor. It's because they didn't follow the rules. They're very easy to throw under the bus because they're not their own personnel. So obviously they are the ones that are creating the havoc. DTE, instead of actually doing the right thing and making sure that under no circumstances do their subs end up straying from the rules, they use them as the fodder for when things go south, so.
Then they fire them and they just get
Right.
a new contractor. A contractor comes to you, DTE comes to you, you're gonna take that job.
Right. Sneak on in there.
If I could, Mayor Wallace? Bob, thank you for taking the time to drive around the community. The one thing that the contractor, Randy, I think was his name, if I remember correctly.
I've dealt with a gentleman by the name of Dean.
Okay. But, and I'll just pass this around. This is a diagram that I created. The key word here, in any red circle on this map, is a tree that they don't want to trim. It's remove. This is not a trimming program that we're all accustomed to. This is removal. This is gone, bye-bye. I think that's key to note here. And just be aware that it's going to be significant and it's going to be extensive. And this is just in the 7-house line in Trotter's Point, over 30 trees alone gone.
And none of your neighbors got the notice that came out June 24?
We have not received any official notice from DTE. I have a placard that the individual handed to me, says, please distribute these to your neighbors.
Has Randy knocked on your door and talked to you?
Randy has not knocked on my door. I approached him and said, what's going on? But he has not talked to my neighbors to my right, my neighbors to my left, nor the neighbors 4 houses down all the way to the beginning of Equestrian Drive.
Yeah, I was gonna say Dean, the other gentleman who's working on the southern route throughout the city, he told me that if a resident chooses not to have a tree removed, then it will be trimmed, but it would not be removed. And the resident has every right to say, no, do not remove the tree on my property. But yet they feel within the easement of the 15 feet, they have every right to trim that accordingly.
Well, they do, yeah.
So is it
By the
15
state.
feet each side of the pole?
Yes, sir.
No
And then
matter-
15 feet. to
15
the
feet
top
below
wire,
the
to
line.
the top wires.
No, he wants to know where his easement is.
Yeah, it's 15 feet
It's
from
15
feet on either side of the.
Right, it's a 30-foot right-of-way.
15 feet on, the right-of-way
30-foot
easement is-
right-of-way, yeah.
Right.
Okay, but I can go up to 15 feet below the lowest line.
But not
No, the primary, the top ones.
Yes.
The top line, so, yes, it would be the utility, the electrical
That is
lines.
correct, sir.
Okay.
But not in the easement, because the easement is not yours, is what they're saying.
So I can't have anything, period, in the
So
easement?
you can,
You-
but they have a right to trim those
Right.
within
They
the
have a
easement.
right, you,
Okay.
yeah.
That's how they're looking at
A
it.
lot of these things will be answered during the discussion, the informational session, so
Thank you.
we'll table it.
Well,
Glad you recognize
Let me just
that.
let you know that at the onset of this whole thing, I had received a notice from DTE, and this was June 24, if I'm not mistaken, was the date on the notice. And I was thinking our problems are resolved because DTE is finally starting to take note of where the problems were, and had assumed that this had been distributed to everyone that would be impacted by the trimming. I had asked to have this looked into and was told that it had gone out, a broad blanket of everyone that was going to be impacted, and the more I ask around, the less that actually took place. So if they were good to their word and followed that as a comprehensive distribution, I don't think we would have been having this problem, because it clearly states in there, they're going to come out and either a white dot is trim and a red dot meant removal. And if you have concerns, there was a phone number on there to discuss that. They would meet with you and see if we could come to a conclusion that everyone was found satisfactory. I thought that seemed like they were really reaching out and trying to find a solution to this problem. Because clearly they can't let trees just grow into the wires and take subdivision's power out, you know. So they do have some obligations, but unfortunately, that was nowhere near as comprehensive as what it should have been.
I am very pragmatic to the situation. I agree. I want the stability of the power system. I want the safety, number one. We realize there's balance that needs to be done. But at the same time, I mean, we like our community.
I get, and I totally understand that, we had a person speak at the last meeting who said, top of my trees are burning. That's why they want to come in and do that. And then when she said, but I don't want them cut, well, I'm not sure how, that's a really fine line now. How are we gonna discuss that? If the top of her tree's burning, it's touching those primaries, and we don't want that occurring. And believe me, no one loves trees more than me.
Clearly, there's middle ground to be had.
Yeah, agreed. Anyway, I think we're all be pragmatic about it. The one question, Bob, you mentioned that you had signed an approval for the water treatment plant. I've instructed my neighbors to, before anybody signs anything, let's talk. I would request that before the city commits to anything in the future, that it be brought to the attention. I don't know, Bob, if that's stepping on toes. I just, given the sensitivity, the widespread aspect, it goes down 9 Mile all the way to 11. It may be a prudent move, but I'll defer to the council on the best treatment of that, so.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just say one quick comment, just to put a fine point on this. Just from the same article, I encourage everybody to read it, from the Free Press on the 7th. As Glenn and Aaron mentioned, yeah, they fired the person that they hired. They say, he no longer is doing this work for us. That's what the vice president told the Free Press. But this is what I wanted to point out for the record, document. What he did is not acceptable and not in line with the process we have laid out to be doing. We won't remove trees without a signed release from the DTE customer. So right now, that's why I want people to take note of this article, because in print, they're saying that they're not going to remove trees unless you sign off on it. So just wanted to point that out.
Might have some flat top pines.
Thank you.
But they might cut a big V out of the top of it.
Understood. May I get the,
Yeah, go ahead, get your.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. Joel, I'm gonna start right off with you on our, manager's report first.
Manager's report, all right. Just a few things this evening. The Safe Routes to School preliminary grant was submitted on August 3rd. We've received comments back from the state, and we are meeting on Friday to review them and make changes to the application based on those suggestions, so that hopefully when August 31 comes around with the final grant deadline, we will have a grant that gets approved and funded this fall. Today, I spent the majority of the morning in Pontiac with the Oakland County Economic Development Group, meeting with Irene Spanos and her entire team. I will be putting together a summary of the information that I gathered from them, along with several ideas that I have for the community, projects that I bounced off of them and that I've been meeting with local property owners about. As for posting the Community Development and Economic Development Director, hopefully I will have that posted today. I showed a preliminary job ad to the city attorney today to make sure that everything in it was acceptable. He suggested a couple of additions to it that I will make, and then it will be posted by the end of the week on the city's website, Facebook, the Michigan Municipal League site, and in the South Lyon Herald. Hope to have ready by the 24th, but depending upon the length of the agenda, it may get pushed to September. Proposals for possible changes to our cemetery fees. As you know, when we talked at the budget time, I would be bringing that to you. That would include ideas for opening an area in the cemetery for the creation of a columbarium, which is similar to a mausoleum, but for storage of cremation urns, which is something we don't currently have. It allows people to buy smaller areas, or basically not a full-sized burial plot for a cremation urn. Want to let the public know that CSX has contacted me about an additional closure of the 10-mile and Reese Street crossings. They have not given a definitive date, but it will not take place until the Griswold Road construction is done. They need to do some additional work on 10 Mile for electrical work, and at the same time, they're going to finish that third rail on Reese Street that did not get done in the last round of construction. And lastly, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, next week, Bob and I are meeting with the County Drain Water Resources Commissioner to talk about our stormwater drainage issue on Pontiac Trail and see what funding options they have, and including possibly a revolving loan, and find ways to resolve the flooding issues we have through the downtown area.
Thank you. Hey, Joe?
The Blues Festival, I thought that was very nice. I think that's a great event for our community. It was just a good time. There was a really great turnout, and it's nice to see so many friendly faces there. So I think continue doing that every year. I would appreciate that. Also, the artwork up around the city that everybody's probably noticed I think it's a great touch to the community. It's very classy. I especially like the Van Gogh in the McCaddy Park. I did not anticipate to see Van Gogh there, so that was nice. Also, just one final thing. I know we talked about this in the past, but you know, it's the little things I'm starting to notice, and people have been bringing up to me. For example, the donation boxes. I know, like I said, we've talked about this in the past as a council, but I'd be curious to see what the current ordinance is, or what's allowed, or maybe even Lynn or Tim, you know. But are they allowed to just drop those boxes anywhere? And
You're talking about parking lot.
yeah, parking lot boxes, the donation boxes. Is this something we can even look at again, or?
We brought this up, and this has been a thorny issue. I'm aware of one federal lawsuit that was filed against I thought it was a community on the west side of the state regarding this issue. And actually, there's someone in my office where we're going to be holding a meeting internally to deal with this issue for several of our clients. It's not your typical issue. It does have some issues that need to be worked through. And we did look at it, and I don't know that we came down with a definitive position one way or the other.
Well, I don't want to spend unnecessary resources, but since you're already working on it, do you mind updating at least me? I don't know, I can't speak for the other council members, but some sort of an email, or maybe by the next council meeting, of our options or what we can do. Okay. Thank you. That was it.
Aaron?
I'm good, thank you.
Glenn?
I think you could probably just steer them to the ordinance. I mean, it's pretty concise what's going on with those boxes, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I just have to do some more homework, thank you.
Tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, at Baker Park will be the official ceremony for the outside in, or inside out, yeah, inside out package with the, all the art downtown, so that'll be nice, and I agree, Joe, that the Blues, Brews, and Brats was a great event, perfect weather, well attended, it was a good time, and good music, so that's all I got.
Okay, thanks. Bev?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Mike?
I'm good.
And Harvey?
Let's say goodnight.
Second that.
Again, I was gonna bring up too about the Baker Park, that's where you bring your own chairs and so forth. They're gonna have some orchestra violins there, a small group. And the Garden Club, I know, is helping support that along with the Arts Commission. And I think the forecast is good for that, it'd be nice. It's from 7 o'clock to 8:30 in Baker Park, near the fountains and near the gazebo that was painted by the Methodist Church. And I mean, it's really, that park is really looking wonderful now with that. And also, I might add, the DPW's done their part to get it in shape too. And as well as some of the members of the Garden Club were doing some trimming in there. And it's really, it's a beautiful drive-by park though, isn't it? With the fountain going and everything.
It's a nice entrance coming into town.
It
that's for
sure is, yep. I think I had my other issues were discussed during the meeting itself, so. Oh, yes, I did. It's right here. One more concert. The 20th is a Thursday. It's a makeup. The Moxie Strings are coming in. They got rained out earlier in the year, so we're going to do a makeup at the McCaddy gazebo. By the way, that's looking lovely too.
Yes, it is.
Just painted that. That is beautiful. That blue, I really like that.
That was leftover paint.
Oh. Okay. But anyways, did you have something to add to that?
No, I want to see the date.
Oh,
20th.
it is the 20th, Thursday. It's the 20th at 7 o'clock. It's like the normal ones we do on Fridays. And then is this Friday the last of the regular? No, there's 3 left?
Pete Fetters, who played at the Blue Show a week ago. This week, following week we have Thursday night, Moxie Strings. Friday night, Stella. Awesome. Then we close the season out with the British Invasion band called Invasion, which does Beatles music.
And Bob, do we have a movie in the park this weekend?
We do, thank you. And the movie that we're showing is about those little things you stick together. What is it?
Big Hero 6.
There
Yeah,
you
Big
go.
Hero
There you go.
6.
She's got the kids.
Big Hero
I'm out of town this weekend, but all this is still occurring.
Okay.
I love those.
No.
All righty, and with that, I'd like to call for an adjournment.
Move that we adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So ends this meeting of 1 hour and 58 minutes.